Do you really need all of these running shoes? You might have heard people on YouTube, on your social media applications, talking to you about shoe rotations, different categories, different shoes for different purposes. Some of them seem to have a different shoe for every day of the week. Well, today I'm going to make a bit of a bold statement. I don't think you always need a massive shoe rotation for your running. Lots of different models for different speeds, distances, terrains, weather conditions. I'm going to explore some different common categories today and let you know if you really need all these running shoes. So first up is plated tempo trainers. So these are traditionally slightly more durable carbon plate or nylon plated shoes with a mixture of different foams perhaps and a slightly better durability or longevity to them. Something like the Zoomfly 6 here from Nike is a perfect example of that. You got other things like the Deviate Nitro 3 perhaps from Puma, or the Sonic Blast from Asics as well. Do you need a slightly more rigid, slightly firmer up-tempo shoe in your lineup? Why not just buy a discounted race shoe that's got a carbon plate, perhaps a slightly lower weight? I think in my experience, having a shoe like this is a little bit down to how much perhaps racing you're going to do and also how quickly you wear down or damage race shoes that are a little bit more fragile. Perhaps where you're landing, if you tear up some of that foam very quickly in those race shoes, then a shoe like this could actually be absolutely perfect and perhaps save you a lot of money. It's going to help you to preserve those race shoes for when you really need them. And I can see kind of why somebody might opt for a slightly more durable model like this one. The Zoomfly 6, takes a real beating, it has to be said. It's got a nice middle ground there between cushion and comfort. It's got a little bit more to it than a traditional standard running shoe. Nike still lists the Zoomfly 6 as a road racing shoe, which is interesting. There's a few people I know that do use this shoe, but mainly in training. So I think shoes like the Endorphin Speed 5 or the Zoomfly 6, they have a place in a rotation, in my opinion, for some runners out there. So I'm going to say yay on this one. Right, talking about daily use shoes now. It might seem like this is an absolute shoe-in, get it? But I do believe that a pair of daily shoes can be very, very useful to pretty much anybody that's running. Having something that's a little bit more durable, something that's a little bit more middle of the road could be a good investment. Though we have seen a shift recently in daily shoes to something that's a little bit perhaps more versatile, slightly less padded, but more cushioned shoes are becoming the norm in this category. Things like the Evo SL or perhaps even the Velocity Nitro 4. Both are nice and light. They're nimble, yet feature softer, more compressive foams and perhaps less bulky or plush upper materials. I think the Nova Blast is a good example of a shoe kind of like this. You've got a perfect balance there between the sort of plush cushion in the midsole, a reasonable weight and some decent traction as well. It can handle most types of runs, perhaps a side of high-paced training where you've got repetitions and intervals. So I still think there's a place there in a running shoe rotation to have some sort of daily shoe, something that's not perhaps a master of anything in particular. It can just handle those varied sessions. The Swiss Army shoe. So daily shoes, yes, I think they do a job. Moving on to max cushion shoes now. Now, some people's max cushion shoe might literally just be the shoe that gets them out the door. Perhaps if it's cold, it's wet, it's windy, something that's just super cushioned and pushes them outside. Lots of plush underfoot foam, perhaps a more padded upper. Comfort's just turned up to 10 basically. I still feel that these are a bit of a niche option though, and not everybody's going to need this type of shoe. If you're perhaps marathon training, you're doing loads of miles every week, you're doing those longer, slower runs, then maybe a max cushion monster is the way to go. But I feel it's quite a small use case and not everybody's going to be able to make use of this type of option. If your legs are really that tired, why not just actually have a rest day? If you really require recovery that much, it could be a much cheaper way, actually, to get that rest in. There's other activities you can do to help build strength and help the body to rebuild. Most of the max cushion options out there are a little bit heavier. This one certainly is, the Vomero Premium from Nike. I think it's coming in at just under 400 grams for my UK 11. Bear in mind that I think if you're a heavier built runner, you might get more out of a max cushion shoe. I'm a little underweight typically for my height, and as such, I think these options cushion's a slight overkill for me. So do we all need a max cushion shoe within our running shoe rotation? The answer is no. Carbon plate race shoes. Some people love them. Some people simply cannot get on with them. I think it's down to more than just speed or pace though. It's a little bit down to running mechanics, a little bit down to your foot strike. It's a little bit down to stability as well. Carbon plate shoes on the feet of some people can feel extremely propulsive. You can engage that compressive foam and make use of that spoon-shaped carbon plate underneath the forefoot. Other people prefer a flatter carbon plate shoe like you get in the Alphafly 3 or perhaps the Metaspeed Sky Paris from Asics. But lots of people out there do find these things just far too soft and unstable to get anything out of them. I feel with the advent of super trainers recently, where we've got a lot of stack, a lot of soft foam, but minus that carbon plate, the whole game has changed a little bit. We've still got lots of soft and midsole foam here, but you tend to get a slightly denser feel. The stability is there. It's not quite as unpredictable, I suppose, underfoot, but you've still got a lot of energy return. The Mega Blast here from Asics, or perhaps the Super Blast 2, I'm sure we're going to see more of this type of option in 2026. I reckon people are going to be racing marathons in these, or perhaps even half marathons too, where they want lots of cushion, but they don't want that rigid carbon plate there. I think the foam does a good enough job of giving you a little bit of snapback on toe off. So is a pair of carbon plate shoes a must for everybody? And the answer is no. Last up is trail shoes. Do you all need a pair? Some of the outsoles on trail offerings very much do lend themselves to that type of terrain where you're on rocks, gravel, mud. The lugs can be so deep though, it just means that they just feel odd and bizarre if you're running on anything other than the trails. I think it's down to how frequently you're going to be running on those types of surfaces and that type of terrain. I mean, if you're hitting the trails every single week, maybe every other run or something, it's probably worth it. But I feel there are some road offerings out there that have got decent enough traction that can kind of get by really if you're only hitting the trails infrequently. Something like the Pegasus 41 from Nike's got some decent outsole there. Maybe one of the Puma models as well that utilize Puma grip. Even the SL2 from Adidas, or perhaps the Super Blast 2 has some reasonable ridges there, although the Super Blast 2 is pretty stacked for trail really. Again, it's a bit of a niche one. Perhaps if you look back at your recent training and you're on the trails quite often, it's probably worth picking a pair up. Otherwise, look for a pair that's kind of like a road to trail commute type shoe. So of course some shoes cover multiple different bases in 2025. I simply think you do not need a pair for every single category. You can probably get away with like a 3-shoe rotation, a daily type shoe for the everyday miles, nothing that's too flashy, crazy or overly cushioned, a race or high tempo shoe perhaps for your quicker sessions, and maybe a slightly more max cushion model. It's just a bit more plush perhaps for those easy day or longer sessions. That aside, people love trying stuff out, don't they? I certainly do, that's for sure. I like to compare and contrast the different shoes. Keeps things interesting, though that pursuit can get very expensive. What are your thoughts on having a very minimal shoe rotation, or one which takes up a whole room? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Very quick musical interlude for you. It was recently the anniversary of the passing of Elliott Smith, one of my favourite singer-songwriters. I think that's now 22 years since he's gone. Remember the day very, very clearly. There's a great track that was written about Elliott Smith by Ben Folds. It's called Late. You can check it out from his Songs for Silverman album. Beautiful song. The piano playing is fantastic, as always, on a Ben Folds production. And I love the lyrics here as well. He's talking about how perhaps he was thinking about reaching out to Elliott Smith to try and do some music with him. I think perhaps he'd met him in passing a few times on tours, and how much his music meant to him. He was listening to it while he was out there on tour. It just goes to show, you know, some great musicians out there, but they all thought Elliott Smith was fantastic too. Always makes me kind of feel sad there's not more of his music out there. He wasn't able to stay with us that little bit longer. His songs are fantastic and his overall musicianship was just wonderful. Go and check this one out. It's called Late by Ben Folds. Thanks for tuning in, people. Hope you enjoyed today's show. Hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up like. Drop us a comment as well for that YouTube algorithm. My name's Ed Bud. I'll be seeing you. You probably realise I haven't been running an awful lot the last week. I've had a dreadful cold and flu, really got onto my lungs as well. So rather than do what I did last year and try and power through it and make it even worse, I've taken about a week off running just to try and, wait till I've properly recovered. And I'm really itching to get back out there. I know I am now. It's windy, it's wet outside, and I still want to go. And that is the sign that I'm probably ready and want to get back out there. So sometimes you've just got to make the right decision about stuff like that and not try and think you're invincible, because none of us are we?